Christmas has made me, 27 female, want to terminate my friendship with my best friend, 32 female. My best friend asked if she could spend Christmas at our house a couple months back, and I said of course, it'll be nice to have my friend there. The last few weeks I've been trying to get an idea of times she'll be here for the day so that I can plan Christmas dinner, etc. But every time she said that she didn't know and it depends on her boyfriend. Annoying, but fine. She told me a couple days ago that she'd be up at the crack of dawn, which I wasn't expecting, but okay. So my partner and I opened our presents the night before, and I made sure to get an early night to be up early for my friend coming over. She comes early as expected, and I spend the morning chilling with her, playing games and having some nibbles before I get started on dinner. I got a lot extra in since she and my partner's brother would be there. As I was peeling potatoes, she announced that her boyfriend was outside. I was like, huh? What do you mean? She told me that his plans hadn't worked out, so she was going to spend the rest of the day with him instead. This really irked me. I'd planned our Christmas around her being here, but not as much as the next part. To preface the next part, I need to go back a couple years. In 2021, my baby daughter died. It was the worst time of my life, and that Christmas was horrific. It was made worse by my sister telling me that she was pregnant, even though my other sister had asked her if she could wait until Christmas was over, but she ignored her. As someone who just lost her child, it's really hard to hear that sort of thing. As much as you are happy for your loved ones, it brings up a lot of memories and emotions which are difficult to deal with. My best friend knew this and listened to me cry back then. Back to my best friend about to abruptly leave as I'm peeling spuds. She decides to then tell me that she's pregnant. She then decides to moan for the next few minutes about how annoying pregnancy is while I'm trying not to cry and just repeating, "You'll be fine." She leaves. There's been such a buildup of annoyance over my friend. For the last 2 years, she's come to me every time they had a fight and she's cried hard. I've listened to her and held her as she's been upset about the fact that they've thrown bottles at each other across pubs, how he cheated on her and she keyed his car, how she ran at him in her street naked just to punch him, etc. Just last week, she phoned me at night doing her usual drunk crying to me on the phone as they, once again, were fighting in a pub and asking if she could come here. I don't say yes because every time I have in the past, it's not gone that way. I'll book taxis for her just to not take them. I'm banned from some taxi services now because of it. She'll at some point during the call announce that he's calling her, hang up immediately, and I won't hear from her for up to 2 weeks. I just feel like today was the last straw for me. Please don't misunderstand me. I'd be incredibly happy for my friend having a baby, for her to be happy, if it wasn't for all of the surrounding circumstances and the way that she told me. I'd literally had to cry to her an hour previous about how hard I find Christmas. I just find it incredibly inconsiderate the whole way it's gone down, and I'm sick of being her backup for when she's bored. It absolutely sucks that I have to let go of a friend, but honestly, I don't see how I could continue this friendship.
I cheated on my husband with his brother, and I have no regrets. Story time. Me and my husband were high school sweethearts. We got married when we were 20, and then we had our daughter when we were 26. And then we welcomed our son a few months later. I was working a really successful job and we were living the life we'd always dreamed of in high school. My husband would shower me with flowers, gifts, he'd treat our kids like absolute royalty. But then over time he started to get, more and more distant with us. I'd catch him on his phone secretly. And this really began to break down my trust. And that was when I discovered that he was having an affair. We did talk about this and he said that he didn't feel fulfilled in the relationship anymore and that I'd become really distant. But this was just because I was working so hard to provide for the family since he didn't have a job. And I'm not gonna lie, I really wanted to leave the marriage at this point, but I decided to stay for the sake of our kids. We decided that it might be good to try out couples counselling. And I'm not going to lie, for the first few months, it really worked and we were back to our usual happy selves. Again, the cycle continued. He got really distant and when I confronted him about it, he confessed to having more affairs and spending nights at other women's houses. He had even had other women in our home, in our bed. What is that about? I moved him into the guest bedroom because I'm not going to lie, I couldn't even bear to look at this man at this point. Throughout all of this, my husband's brother Steve became my main support network. Steve was there for us all of the time. He would pick them up for school, he would look after them, he would make tea when I was working late. This went on for 2 years. 2 years! And at this point, my children started to call Steve Dad. Me and Steve were spending a lot of time together and I'm not gonna lie, we both absolutely loved it. We really clicked. So for Christmas one year, he actually booked me, my husband and our kids a trip to Fiji. Fiji! Steve was desperate for me and his brother to try and fix things. However, when my husband found out, he told us to F off. Like, babe, it's Fiji. Let's just go for the free holiday. He then just outright refused to go. In the comments, is anyone else turning down a free trip to Fiji? Because I know I'm not. Then had a screaming argument about it. He was saying how he's not going away with our little brats. He called our kids brats. He said that his kids weren't his anymore and they were mistakes anyway. And I'm not gonna lie, this one really upset me and kind of threw me off a little bit. So I thought about it for a little while and realised that this trip was gonna happen, but I didn't want to go on my own with 2 kids. So naturally, I asked Steve. So This is now up to date. We went on holiday a week ago. Me, Steve, and all of the kids had an absolute blast. One of the best holidays I have ever been on. And my kids had such an incredible time with Steve. It makes me so happy knowing that they're gonna grow up with a father figure like him. So on this trip, we obviously, got it on. And I'm not gonna lie, I chose the wrong brother. And the universe showed me the way to the right brother. But anyway, we got back this morning and I find my husband sat on the sofa.
My husband and I started dating when we were 13 and I left him 15 years later. He suggested having an open marriage and I didn't really want it, but I felt like it was a trap to say yes. I agreed after him having brought it up a few times over the last few years. He said he didn't actually want to have sex with other women himself. He just found it extremely erotic to have a wife who would sleep with other men and he wanted to be a part of that. I said, okay, fine, as long as you're actually okay with this, and because we'll be a team on this, I'll give it a go. He had been the only man that I'd ever slept with, so I was very hesitant about this. After I was knee-deep in exploring his fetish with him, he began to trickle the truth. He started by saying he might want to do the same and find a woman to sleep with himself. Then that he might be polyamorous. To admitting that he had been in love with my best friend for a decade and it had been eating at him since we were 17, and now that we're part of this lifestyle 10 years later, he can be honest about it. I'm absolutely positive he chose these series of events exactly as he did so that I'd be a hypocrite if I opposed any of it. However, what he didn't expect is that I'd meet someone special. Someone I enjoyed talking to and someone who made me feel entirely different than I'd felt with my husband my whole life. I left my husband telling him that we needed to talk. I said that I don't think we're working anymore and that I'm not happy living this way. He asked if I still loved him and I said not like I used to. And that was it. He was emotional, of course, but I think he saw it coming. My husband tried to start a purely FWB type of relationship with my best friend after our divorce. They were both lonely and kept seeing each other on dating sites. They asked my blessing first, but that's when I told her it wasn't purely innocent on his end because of what he told me in the year prior. I hadn't told her yet because until that point it didn't matter. And she was horrified. He had promised her that he didn't have any feelings for her, so it wouldn't be weird, and convinced her that this would be super casual and platonic, when in actuality he was deeply in love with her and trying to manipulate her. They haven't talked since. Sucks to suck.
I, 21 female, want my father, 51 male, to be the sperm donor for my fiance, 22 female, and I. But she thinks this is wrong. What could possibly be done? My 21 female fiance, 22 female, and I have been doing some future planning lately. We're set to get married in the spring next year, and we know we both want kids. So we sat down and talked about how we'd like to make that happen. She's okay with adopting, but I'm not, for a variety of reasons. And we determined that the option that makes us both the happiest is getting a sperm donor. It's extremely important to me that the baby be genetically related to both of us. Since she's not in contact with her family, homophobic, the only way that the baby would be related to both of us is if she carries the child and the sperm comes from my side of the family. I'm an only child, and I have no uncles or male cousins of an appropriate age. The only way we could do this is if my dad, 51 male, is the donor. I figured he would be excited to help us have the family we've always dreamed of, and I talked it over with him, and he was totally on board. He said he'd let my mom, 52 female, know we were planning on adding to our family. Everything is ready to go on our end whenever we decide to start trying. I thought it was a really beautiful way to unite our sides of the family, and I know my dad felt the same. But to my surprise, my fiance was really against it. She laughed at me at first, which confused me because we were having a serious conversation. And then she asked if I was joking. When I said I wasn't, her face immediately dropped. She literally looked disgusted. She said that would be really weird, as our baby would be my sibling, and that she wasn't comfortable with that in any way, shape, or form. My dad has stepped in a bit for her because of the aforementioned homophobia in her family, and has become a secondary sort of father figure for her, which she brought up. She said having his baby felt wrong and incestuous. She said it wouldn't feel like a medical procedure or fertility help. It would feel sexual. That's insane. I don't see how it's different from any other donor, other than actually meaning something to us. I'm honestly kind of insulted. This is a rejection of my family as well as me, and the fact that she refused to even consider it made me feel overruled in something that's supposed to include the both of us. I can't see myself having a connection to a baby that isn't related to me. It wouldn't be my baby, just a baby I'm taking care of. Even if she says she doesn't feel the same, I think she'd have a hard time with it if it was the other way around and the baby wasn't related to her. This feels like our only option, and she shot it down without considering my feelings. This is really important to me. I'm worried we won't be able to compromise on this and we'll never have kids, which would be a deal breaker for me. Additionally, this is also the cheaper option for kids. We wouldn't have to pay for the sperm donor, which can cost a lot, and we wouldn't have to do expensive IVF stuff either, since if we get it from my dad, it can all be done at home. Am I the asshole for asking my wife to think about the long-term implications of her birth plan? Throwaway because my friends know my main. I know dudes get ripped on in here for posting their opinions about birth, but I think this is an important opportunity for my wife, and I'm posting because I believe the situation is nuanced and she's not hearing me out. My 34 male wife, Beth, 28 female, is 33 weeks pregnant. We're both very ready for this baby to come. My mom is super hands-on with my entire family. My 2 brothers' wives are very close with her, but Beth has just never really clicked the way the other 2 did. I'd be lying if I said it didn't bother me that my wife seems disinterested in getting closer with my mom and my sister-in-laws. For all 5 of the births that my sister-in-laws had and my mom's 3 births, they were all unmedicated. It is clearly a point of pride for all of them at having done it naturally. My mom said she chose to do it because she didn't want me and my brothers born doped up, and she wanted to experience the full spectrum of becoming a mother. Beth, on the other hand, is very fearful of birth and has talked to our doctors about being medicated. I don't love the idea of the mother of my child being loopy and out of it at such a critical moment, but those concerns fell on deaf ears when I raised them. I felt very excluded during the discussion around pain management, and neither Beth nor our doctor were receptive to my ideas. My mom was asking me about our birth plan the other day, and I don't know why I did this, but I just sort of panicked and told her that Beth was going for it the all-natural way, like she and my sister-in-laws have. To say my mom freaked out with happiness is an understatement. She was thrilled that Beth was open to experiencing the full range of motherhood, and this might sound crazy, but I think if Beth shared this rite of passage with my mom and sister-in-laws, they might finally gel. I told Beth about my slip-up to see if she'd be open to changing her mind, given how this could serve as a critical bonding experience for them to share, and she lost her mind. Yelling about how she wasn't going to compete with my mom and sister-in-laws during her birth. She emphasized that it was her birth again and again, which I don't think is fair because we will both be experiencing and going through it just differently. I was just trying to get her to see that there was an opportunity for her to create some sisterhood with the women of my family. I wasn't dictating or even pressuring her. I just thought she would want to know how happy it made my mom. She said she didn't give a fuck about sisterhood, which was very intense because Beth does not swear. I wasn't trying to upset her. I just think she would be wise to see the potential long-term implications of not having this shared experience with my mom and sister-in-laws. But Beth has been furious to the point of not speaking to me for several days, and I'm starting to wonder if I'm in the wrong, even if I was trying to help. Am I the asshole?